So I do have a limit of clients because my clients get premier service and they pay for premium. That's why I don't charge $100 an hour, because you have access to me 24/7 unless I'm coaching. You can pick up a call, phone, text, email, and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. And you don't have to wait till next session going, oh, well, let me tell you, it was like this, but I don't remember what really happened. Because if we don't address the challenge, the trigger, the issue at the moment, what happens is it dissolves. And sometimes it is a good thing, but most of the time, people call when they are struggling, they haven't found a solution. And let me give you an example. My coach, I know everything about panic attacks.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Pedro, and today's guest is Dominika, an elite brain coach and corporate training expert who helps leaders and organizations unlock peak performance through neuroscience and brain health. With more than 2 decades of experience across business, HR, higher education, and corporate training, her work blends science, leadership, and purpose-driven impact. Dominika has advised global organizations like Google, Boeing, Zara, and Nielsen, served as a senior labor market expert, and spoken on international stages alongside world-class thought leaders. Her approach focuses on building resilient, high-performing leaders and teams by strengthening mindset, brain health, and decision-making under pressure. Welcome to the show, Dominika.
Hello, Pedro. How are you? And welcome to all the audience.
Well, I'm doing just fine, and it's great to have you, and I'd like to rewind a bit because every coach has that moment where they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? So when was that for you?
Every day. The beauty of being aware is that you're aware of the emotional perspectives and swings. And very often, we're going somewhere and then you're expecting an outcome and the outcome doesn't come. And you go, well, okay, I guess I'm still doing this because I love doing it. And it's kind of a mantra because the moment you get bored with what you're doing, you stop really performing at the level you can without effort.
Getting back to the origin story then. When was the moment you felt, I'm not sure if it's a calling or whatever happened, that you're like, yeah, coaching, it's more than just the way I'm doing things. It's actually a business, right? When was that for you?
That was not that long ago. So I had different versions. I am very much Polish, which means I place a lot of value in education. And for years, I used coaching techniques and they were absolutely amazing. And they brought so much, results. And so many times it was way better than any other approach you could take. But because I didn't have formal training as a coach, I would never call myself a coach. I would say I'm using coaching techniques. And that was very important to me because I wanted to give credit to people who did do the work and get the certifications, which I later did. And I did that as a career coach for C-level executives for about 10 years. And I would say I'm using coaching techniques. And we had great results. It paid fantastically. And it was so unfulfilling. And then I stopped. For a while. I'm like, this is not how I want to live my life. I understand that money is super important. And I love money and money loves me. We're going to keep repeating that until it becomes true. And at the same time, I need a mission. And I'm a woman that needs a mission and fulfillment element. And getting another 6, 7, 8-figure job to a person who's 6, 7-figure is just not my definition of fulfillment. I don't feel I'm impacting the world enough. So after soul searching, working on myself, I ended up falling in love with neuroscience and run into Dr. Daniel Amen, run into Dr. Joseph McClendon III, who created a program called Brain Revolution. And that's where I started doing all my certifications that were specifically for coaching. And don't get me wrong, I've learned plenty of new techniques. And I also reaffirmed myself that, yeah, I am a coach and I always have.
Okay. So you made that shift, right? So after you got rolling, who are the people that kept showing up? Considering we're talking about the neuroscience part of it, right? The ones you realize, okay, these are my people. This is my tribe.
So from a perspective of clients, surprisingly, men are highly resonating with how I coach. And this is a non-nonsense coaching. We don't do storytelling BS type of thing. And I'm saying this on purpose because very often people who are very fragile and people who are afraid and they're not ready for kind of, love and tackle type of truth thing, they're not my people. Also, I've found that people who've never had personal development are not my people. To be my person, you need to have some experience with some type of personal development or therapy or coaching or training where you have the ability to introspect. And that was another aha moment because it shifted things that I will say. I'm like, well, okay, so what I'm saying will not land with people who have no basic knowledge. And that is very, very important because if you're first training right now and you're, 40, doing your first training in communication, what I do is this is elementary level. What I do is university level. So if you have not gone through the process, you might be challenged with what I do. So my people are people who are self-aware. My people are people who are hungry for more and are not willing to go with the flow. That's very important because there are certain stereotypes, certain beliefs, certain things we're being surrounded by. And those people are going, I don't want to subscribe to this. This is not me. I want to find my way and I want to feel comfortable with my identity, with my personal beliefs. I want to feel comfortable and find what works for me. And if it's something that it's commonly used, great. But if it's not, I'm willing to discover it. So that would be my tribe.
I mean, that's the coaching side. And I need to highlight something here. In the coaching space, we see a lot of people trying to embrace the entire world, help everyone, help every single soul there's out there. So you're doing the opposite. You're like, oh, they need to graduate first, then we can have a talk. So I want to talk about marketing. Because how do people usually find you? Let's say that you need some experience of personal development. You need them to be more self-aware. So how does that play out in the marketing aspect of the business?
So groups that I target are people who have been either to Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, listen to Mel Robbins, books they read. So it's a very indicative, Jay Shetty, and there are plenty more big names that we can look at that those people have been surrounded. They're curious about it. That's one. Number two, we do speak the language that unless you have been through the personal development, you'll have no clue what I'm talking about. So it will not resonate. And number three is the interview process where you interview me, but I also interview you. And to be honest, which I don't know why it ends up like this, but 80% of people who call me, I refer out to somebody else because somebody else will help them better. Or I don't believe I can get the results that fuel me. And that's one of the things I've learned along the way. It's not only about client feeling successful. If I don't see your success, I have no fuel coming from you. I cannot replenish my joy. And I get extreme joy from people succeeding. And what's even weirder, my biggest joy is when you don't need me anymore.
I like how you're coming from abundance instead of scarcity. Like, it's not like I'm looking for clients, I need to land client. Actually, this needs to work both ways. Right? This needs to fill up my cup as much as it needs to fill their cup. So I love that. I love that. And let's say people find you, right? And just talking business for a second. They find you either through a post or through, for example, a call that they book with you and they resonate with your work. And eventually they want to know what working with you actually looks like. You know, everyone builds their coaching business a bit differently. So when someone actually becomes a client, what does that experience look like right now?
Most of my clients, when I interview them after we finish everything and we decide that we don't need each other anymore, which is usually no longer than a year and a half. Most of the clients is 6 months to a year. We have a conversation. And that conversation is, okay, how did it look like for you? And usually the answer is, I wanted to change so bad. I was in such a bad place that I just wanted to do everything. I already trusted you And this was the hardest thing I've ever done because I was all the time uncomfortable. Then they say, and after I understood, something clicked one day, and everybody has a different moment. It clicks. They recognize the pattern of how they could be thinking and what will benefit them. And then they go, I saw changes day after day, and I saw this being so easy and simple if I just stick to certain things we did together. Because most people think coaching is about the time we spend together. My clients spend with me each session between 45 minutes up to 2 hours, depending whatever you need. But the work doesn't start really. My job is to open certain slots in your head, ask you questions that are uncomfortable, and then allow your brain to process that information, plus do some extra things that you get as homework. And that's where the work begins. Because conversation is one thing. We all know people who say, I really wanted to come to your party. I really am planning to visit you, and that never happens. So what we want to happen, we want them to be so uncomfortable with what they realize during the call that they'll be zoomed in on those behaviors so they can recognize them in daily life and then make a shift. We want them to understand which part of their brain needs support, and we want them to do the specific exercises on a daily basis. And then they have to recognize that the outcome was different. So a lot of self-awareness, but also understanding how your brain works. And most people who work with me, they enjoy the neuroscience. They like understanding why things are happening to them. And it's very unusual coaching because we really don't care why. But in this case, understanding the process allows you to decompose the process and rebuild it again in your own way.
Interesting. I mean, I love the clicks, I always love that. It's like Matrix. Oh, he's starting to believe, right? He's starting to see behind the curtain. He's really being able to understand what's really this is about. It's not about getting answers. It's like getting the right questions. And coaching, it is about that. It's developing and getting to specific parts of the brain that they don't feel comfortable at all. And that's where real transformational change happens. And that's so cool to hear. I mean, I can only imagine. But at the same time, your work seems pretty hands on, right? We're talking about 1 hour and a half, 2 hour sessions. We're talking about, I'm not sure how you call them, but it sounds like discovery calls, something like that, to understand if it's a fit, if there's alignment. So, how do you think about capacity so you don't stretch yourself too thin?
So I do have a limit of clients because my clients get premier service and they pay for premium. And that's why I don't charge $100 an hour, because you have access to me 24/7 unless I'm coaching. You can pick up a call, phone, text, email, and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. And you don't have to wait till next session going, oh, well, let me tell you, it was like this, but I don't remember what really happened. Because if we don't address the challenge, the trigger, the issue at the moment, what happens is it dissolves. And sometimes it is a good thing, but most of the time, people call when they are struggling, they haven't found a solution. And let me give you an example. My coach, I know everything about panic attacks. And when they were whining me off antidepressants, because I'm epileptic, and that's part of the thing that, you get always antidepressive medication with seizure medication. And they were whining me off. And first time in my life, I had a panic attack. I know everything about panic attack. I teach people how to manage panic attack. And I did everything I knew, and I couldn't handle it. The fact that I could pick up a phone and call my coach, say, I did everything I know how, I need help. It took him 5 minutes. Imagine how long it would last if I wouldn't have the person to call. So sometimes, especially at the beginning of the journey, that immediate support is key. That's the first advantage. And I took what I liked from coaches that coached me, and I created my own version of what I call high level, high quality. And when we talk about 45 minutes to 2 hours, clients who are starting this journey and this very different approach, very often it takes them a while to get to the root cause. I hate it when I had coaches go, okay, sorry, it's half an hour, you gotta go. But we can do it next time. But next time I'm not in a flow. And what happens is when you're coached properly, the time always shrinks. I had a client who first 4 months was close to 2 hours almost every time. Right now, it takes us 20 minutes because he learned how to function, how to think, how to ask questions, how to process, where to look. And he is just spot on with challenges. It's a skill To be coached, it's a skill. And coaches who go 45 minutes and I'm done, okay, that's your model. You do you. I believe that if you're ready for the 45 minutes, half an hour, 20 minutes, fantastic. But for me, to get to the bottom, what I really, and think through the questions that I'm being asked, where I want to go and have the aha moment, oh, this is really not the problem. This is the problem. It takes time and speaking out loud. And I believe that's an asset because then that's a skill for life you're learning with a coach like me.
She was able to help in 5 minutes. Do you think it has to do with him not being emotionally attached to your situation? That he can see with more clarity and take out the noise you're putting or believing there is some like a fog in front of you in order to solve the problem. I just want to hear from your perspective.
So one, absolutely not being emotionally involved. It's one thing. That is very, very important. But number two is what happens when you're in anxiety attack, panic attack, high stress level situation. Your prefrontal cortex, which is ability to access deeper memories, deeper knowledge, forward thinking, planning, and self-control, which is emotional regulations, that's all prefrontal cortex shuts down. So you are physically unable until you calm down to get out of it no matter what you know. Now, there is a way to go around it, and I train my clients in it. It's called mental rehearsal, and it's a practice where we design situations where you practice a feeling and getting out of the feeling when it happens on an autopilot. But that takes time. This doesn't happen in 1, 2, 3, 4 sessions. Yet it's a phenomenal tool that is used by F-16 pilots, by everybody who is working and playing at Olympic level. People who are billionaires use mental rehearsal daily. And having that skill takes you to another level and allows you to create your own autopilot, which is so beneficial because you design it, you create it, and it works for you how you want it.
I'm curious about where you're taking all this, right? Like looking ahead, where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is that a next step you're excited about?
Oh, I'm excited about everything because I truly believe that neuroscience-based coaching and neuroscience is the future of everything we do because it allows us to get where we want to go quicker. It is much more permanent than typical therapy, and it creates change in the brain, and it allows you to understand the process and tap into beautiful structures in your brain like intuition and feeling that is actually not a feeling, but the way your brain works with mirror neurons and other things. Separating that, I believe, and I am building my business to have 3 legs. First one is the speaking leg, where I speak to crowds, I do keynotes, I do trainings. And the speaking to crowds like podcasts and speaking to crowds like being on stage. I just did a TEDx talk on a female brain and leadership. Highly recommend to all women and men who are thinking about women in leadership. It opens the eyes and inspires without comparing. And then we have the training side. This is where I'm looking to grow my training business, where we use neuroscience and training. And this is where I'm going to be looking to outsource. I'm going to be looking for franchisees. I'm going to be training future trainers. And then we have my baby, which is coaching, and coaching is for fun. It is to bring value. It is individual. It's high ticket, and it is on purpose that way because I want those people to really thrive. And individual connection is something that's built over time. So that's the part that is kind of, I understand. Yes, I could do group coaching, but well, I don't know. Another thing that's happening is today my website in Polish is being launched, and we're looking at beta testers. They're giving us feedback saying what they think about it. And that is fantastic. But we're going to happen in the future, in the next 2-3 years, we're creating with psychiatrists and psychologists a neuroscience-based coaching program that's going to be a certification program for coaches in Poland, because what we do includes understanding biology, like how does your blood work influence how your brain functions and how your blood work should look like for your brain to be optimized. It's not only thoughts, it's not only mental rehearsal, it's also biology, right? And this is a part. And my big dream is to introduce neuroscience-based techniques and practices to schools for kids to eliminate anxiety, depression, and everything that teenagers are struggling with. I'm a big proponent of cutting off social media until a certain age. But I believe that if we start working with those tools and we teach our younger generations, our future is bright, because a lot of misunderstandings and challenges people go through is not because there's something wrong with them, but no one taught them the tools, how to manage their inner world, their emotions, and their thoughts.
Wow, that's a loaded answer. I love it. We're talking about your baby and the coaching, the one-on-ones. We're talking about the training and access to a new market, right? I wouldn't say new because that's your homeland, but we're talking about Poland launching a website today. That's awesome. And congrats on that. And of course, whenever we're aiming towards the next chapter, there's always something we're refining in the present, right? What are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business to, help that succeed, or a challenge right now the other coaches could resonate with?
So, one of the things I have found after learning and growing is that I absolutely have no email sequences. I give away and I don't do anything with the things I give away. So right now we're going through all the lead magnets, everything that's done for free, and make sure that there's always a sequence, that there's always something that follows, that these people can be moved through the funnel. We very often miss that. I had a client once. She was working on building her coaching business, and for some unknown reason, she was so opposed to collecting emails. But when it came to selling, she goes, but I cannot reach out to them like we've been talking about collecting emails. And don't get me wrong, the email list is not really the hot take of selling in my case. It is more of, are you there? Come back, come back, come back.
Okay, sorry about that. I got a lost connection here.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I did. Yeah.
Not sure what's happening with this tool. It's so specific, and with Riverside, just Riverside stopped here. It makes no sense. Then I have to talk with my podcast manager and take a look at this tool. We were talking about challenges. Can I rephrase the question so we can move forward?
Yes.
Okay, sorry
Yes.
about that once again. Okay.
We're all good.
Editor, I lost connection here for a while, so we're going to rephrase the question. Just a second. Can you hear me? I got a
Yes.
message here. I'm not sure what's happening. Okay, moving forward. And of course, whenever we're aiming towards the next chapter, there's always something we're refining in the present. Like, what are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business right now?
That's a very good question. So, first thing I have found is that I don't have enough follow up in everything that's happening online. So, yes, people start liking my page, follow my page, people download the freebies or the lead magnets, and then nothing happens besides the fact that they're getting it. I also found that there were some freebies where there was no contact to me in it. So they had it and it would just be an information they got, and they had no way of contacting me later because probably they don't remember who they got it from. Some things were not branded. So we're now working on tightening messages, looking and analyzing data of what goes well, what doesn't, which messaging works. We're trying out different messaging styles. And there are a lot of little tiny pieces. I have a phenomenal marketing/VA person who has been a marketing manager for 20 years. Right. But she decided to move into doing something else. She's working from Ecuador, great woman, fantastic knowledge. And now we're playing around with that, going, okay, so this message works, this color work. And we're trying to make this much more effective because it's not lack of my knowledge. And we know people are following us. And then out of the blue, they go, I've watched you for 3 years. And now I'm ready. And I'm like, that's a very long sales process if it's 3 years. We need to shorten that down. So that is the key thing. We have products, we have sales, but we haven't figured out how to create mass sales for the things that could be sold massively. How to create conversion proper on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. How to create, this is still play around. Some things are already working and some things need refinement. Follow up. Warming up the leads. We have them on some, but we found few more that have nothing, right? So we need to create that. And then visual doesn't match. And somebody, some things were done at the very beginning, which they don't look according to the style that we have now. So they need to be redone. And we also found we have a phenomenal page that doesn't sell. And how do you create your website that is actually converting? because yes, they have everything they need there. It's done story brand style. It has a person has been hired and they did a great job. Looks fantastic. And that's great. That looks fantastic. But where's the conversion?
Right.
Right. So now we're playing with those things that I didn't have the capacity at the beginning to play with.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate you being and sharing so openly about that. That's something that people tend to not share, but in reality, it happens more often than not. And based on that, I need to tap into your experience for a second, okay? Because people listening can really benefit from this. You've been in the game long enough to hear all kinds of business advice, some that sticks, some that really doesn't. So, what's one piece of business advice you hear all the time that you think is overrated or misunderstood?
You need to have your book. Bullshit.
Pick one, top of mind.
You do not. Now, I do have a book and it did well, was #1 Kindle release. By the way, no paid ads. I have a system that I took from somebody, then I optimize it and it created #1 Kindle release. Works like magic. But the truth is, this is more a giveaway. This is more something that you want to feel. It doesn't sell. It doesn't do anything outside of, unless you're in a big publisher, they're doing the whole 9 yards. But if you're doing it on your own, you can skip it. Another advice is to niche down specifically that you talk to only one client. With all due respect, I talk to one client and people who are not my client resonate with the message. They will come to you anyway. It cannot be broad for everybody. But the message on social media, it is not the message that you're going to be so specific that only 2 people will hear it that day and they're going to call you. That's not how it works. This is the kind of I'm around, my face, you trust me. Another thing that I've heard over and over is that you need to keep giving things away for free. You don't have to. I use lead magnets only when I'm in qualified calls or I'm in some type of an event where I want to collect additionally somebody's email and see who's somebody interested in something and then do targeting campaigns. But the truth is that people are hiring experts, not people they like. And I want you to remember this forever. I can like you, but if I don't see that you're in a place where I want to be, I'm not hiring you. You're just a friend. We don't hire friends. We hire experts. And that's your priority, to be able to show that you are where they want to be or you have what they want. If they like you, I've hired people who I didn't like. Trust me. Gosh, I did. They were phenomenal because they got me where I wanted to go. Me liking them had nothing to do with it. So there are plenty of weird advices that I've heard that, you need robust this and you don't. I know people who sell more than you can imagine, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet, to be very clear. And I'm looking at them, getting inspired and learning from them with a landing page that looks like I would never want to have it, but it converts. See, because you're not talking to you. You're talking to you from 10 years ago. And I don't remember what worked for me 10 years ago. That's why you need phenomenal people around you who can do that for you. Doing it alone, you're going to go maybe fast at the beginning, but then you're going to be just in a chokehold. As soon as you can, hire people to do things you're not good at. Stop getting coaching for marketing and website building, because by the time you build this, that's going to be 2 years down the road and this is going to be outdated. Be amazing at what you are. I can go on and on and on.
Yeah, I counted like 5, I guess. And on the other side, what's a piece of advice you wish more people actually took seriously?
Consistency. Imperfect action sells more than a perfect video once a month. When you look like a human and imperfect, that's a good thing. I on purpose sometimes leave typos. I on purpose sometimes show that the video is not perfect and I stop and I stumble. It is much more connective. People are looking for connection. AI is doing the perfect job for us on a 7th grade level. And we're going to wait.
I love that. Okay. Really appreciate the advices. I think they're gold. Okay. And really is. I really appreciate that. And if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, Dominika, where can people find you and connect with you?
That's a great question. You can always find me on social media, Your Brain Coach D. My website is Your Brain Coach D. LinkedIn, Your Brain Coach D. And there are 2 newsletters, one on LinkedIn and one to my email list. So whichever one you would like. You can make and schedule an appointment through my website. It's very easy. Click, pay, and you're there. And we can see if I can support you, either if you're a company and you need support as a whole to your employees or your leadership. If you're a woman that's a leader, 35 to 55, you're my sweet spot. I love you. And obviously, if you need keynotes and speaking engagements, there's also another website, Dominika Staniewicz, and that's specifically for speaking separated on purpose. Either way, I'm here to support. There's plenty of free content. And there's also a YouTube channel that's called Your Brain Coach D. And I highly recommend, again, the TEDx talk with my first and last name, Why Female Brain is Built for Leadership. And obviously, you know my name.
There were a few things you shared today that really stuck with me. I would say first one is when you hit the brakes and said, hey, I need a mission. This is not working. I need to do something about it. And that shift, it's something that we see people talking a lot, but living that, it's like, I always remember, it's like Mike Tyson quote, everyone has got a plan until they got punched in the face. So living that, it's so different while talking about it. And I have been there and done that. So I resonate what you said and I believe in what you said. That is so true. And I also like to highlight the fact that you said, at the end of the day, I don't want them to need me as a coach. I want to send them their way and say, hey, that's great. You did it. That's just filling up both cups, right? With joy. I really love that. Well, the mental rehearsal, I'm going to check on that. Okay. The billionaires are doing, I'm not a billionaire. I'm going to check on that. Okay. And also I would say, don't hire friends. We don't end up hiring friends. We end up hiring experts because it's not about who you like. Of course, you don't need to despise the person. You need to have somewhat level of connection, but being likable is really not what's going to, break it or make it. So I really appreciate that advice and I appreciate what you do. And I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today, Dominika. It was great having you on.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And I hope that, whoever is listening to this, they take whatever resonates with them, adjust it and run with it because there's so much abundance in the world. There is never enough of us building businesses, supporting others, creating jobs, creating change. The economy, no matter where you are, it will always want you.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.